Thank you, John Lee. Beautiful. Good morning. I welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist at Stony Brook's online service. I want to thank the dedicated team of behind-the-scenes techies that make this possible. Excuse me. My name is Joan Rubinstein, and I'm happy to be serving as worship associate today with our guest speaker, Ani Halasz. Our minister, Margie Allen, is finishing up her sabbatical and will be back in the pulpit next Sunday. Ani is the executive director of Long Island Jobs with Justice, but today they are not here to speak about workers or immigrants' rights, but rather gender and resilience. Prior to becoming a director, Ani was Jobs with Justice's immigrants' rights organizer and led efforts to support undocumented youth on Long Island. Ani got their start in organizing as an undergraduate at Stony Brook University, leading the campus campaign to remove Coca-Cola products. Ani was born in Romania and immigrated to New York City at the age of 4 with their family. They moved to Long Island in 2004 and received a bachelor and graduate certificate in women's studies from SUNY Stony Brook. They then went on to receive a master's in disability studies from the School of Professional Studies at City University of New York. Ani has a 4-year-old son named Dimitri and a 3-legged kitty named Butch. Ani identifies as transgender and began their gender transition and journey in August 2019. I want to offer a special welcome to any of you who are here for the first time. Both our online and in-person services vary a great deal from week to week, so we hope you come back and get a sample of other ones. I invite you to light your chalice or any sort of candle when I light ours, and encourage you to sing along with the hymns. As usual, we will leave the chat open at the end for a virtual coffee hour. This requires us to restore audio and video to each attendee individually, so it takes a minute or two. Directly following the service, there will be a worship circle for our children, youth, and families. Families who wish to participate are welcome to leave this meeting at the end and then join the circle with the link for that, which is on the special email of yesterday or on the website. We will again be holding small group chats, which provide the opportunity for real conversation with some old and potentially new friends. To join the small group chat, after you have said your hellos to everyone in the coffee hour, please leave this meeting and then rejoin the other meeting, the small group chats meeting. Again, the link is on the email from yesterday or on the website. As we gather together to begin our worship service this morning, we pause to acknowledge the brutal death of George Floyd in the hands of the Minneapolis police. Although the officer immediately fired from his job, it took days before he was arrested for the crime. Enraged citizens, both black and white, took to the streets of Minneapolis to protest this ongoing crime. And not only in Minneapolis, but also in Chicago, New York, Kentucky, California, and more. Some of these demonstrations became violent with rock throwing, looting, and fires. As Martin Luther King Jr. said, a riot is the language of the unheard. The Human Rights Campaign, one of the oldest national groups fighting for LGBTQ equality, said in an open letter, "This cannot continue. We must all demand answers. We must all demand accountability, and we must all demand change." That means changing the system and the structures. That means examining the ways that we, each of us, knowingly or unintentionally, support these systems of white supremacy through our actions, inactions, complicity, and indifference. And that means ensuring that we don't get stuck in our own outrage, but are moved to action. And so, as we ring our bell this morning, let us send our thoughts and prayers to all the victims and loved ones of those killed by racial hatred. And now we will light the chalice. And if you've got one, you do yours. And the chalice lighting words are by Amy Williams Clark, entitled "In This Time of Uncertainty." My papers are stuck together. Sorry. We gather in this time of uncertainty, full of unknowns, as angst closes in upon us. We light this chalice with a flame that draws us together. We light this flame. With this flame, we cut through the darkness of isolation and are warmed by the fires of our interconnection. For this moment, this radical moment, we find a certainty. within the knowable bonds of love and community.
Good morning, everyone. Our opening words this morning are from Blessed Are the Queer, written by Helen Rose. Blessed are the wanderers seeking affirmation. Blessed are the worshipers praying from closets, pulpits, pews, and hardship. Blessed are the lovers of leaving family and familiarity, leaving tables where love is not being served. Blessed are those who stay. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they will be satisfied. Blessed are the queer, disciples of truth, living, breathing, sacred reflections of divine love. For our first hymn this morning, we will be singing hymn number 95, titled There Is More Love Somewhere. After a short introduction, we will sing all 4 verses. And please sing at home and imagine you're hearing the whole congregation singing with you.
Thank you, Lee. Our meditation today is in 3 parts. First, we will hear some words by Seth Carrier Ladd, and then we will have a moment of silent reflection, and then Lee will bring us out to sing Spirit of Life. This piece is entitled Embodiment and Sexuality. Spirit of life and love, may we find appreciation today in our lives for our embodiment. We are physical creatures of mind, spirit, and soul housed within our bodies. Our bodies, our physical form, allow us to experience the world. Taste, chocolate chip cookies fresh from the oven. Touch, the warm and smoothness of a baby's skin. sight, the blossoming colors of the sunrise and sunset, sound, the laughter of friends and family. In particular today, we find gratitude for our sexuality. May we be grateful for and appreciate our gender identity, our sexual orientation, and our physical selves. May we appreciate the pleasure, the intimacy, the connection that comes with and is part of our sexuality. May we also remember that for many, sexuality can bring a variety of emotions: shame, sadness, trauma, grief, anger, pain, hurt. For all the joys and goodnesses that embodiment brings, it also has its challenges: aching joints, long-term health conditions, severe illness, and more. Today, as we honor the whole of ourselves, we also honor the whole spectrum of sexual experience, holding the joys in all their richness and sorrows in all their fullness in our hearts. Thank you, Lee. One of our spiritual practices is to take a collection each week, which we share with a local nonprofit agency working for social justice. Because of the exceptional food insecurity this year due to the COVID virus and its effects on jobs and on the economy in general, we are committing the social justice portion of our Share the Plate donations from May through August to emergency food assistance. 80% of the social justice portion of the donation will be given to the Island Heart Food Pantry in Middle Island, and 20% will be given to the Minister's Discretionary Fund for members of UUFSB who need food assistance. Please continue to be generous both with your pledges and your Share the Plate donations. Since there obviously is no plate going around, there are several ways that you can donate instead. You can use the donate button on our website. You can use your bank bill pay service, or simply mail a check to the fellowship. Either way, make sure you indicate how you want your donation applied. To do so, please use the memo line on your check or notes section. There are more detailed instructions for Share the Plate donations in the news feed that was emailed yesterday. Thank you for your contributions to further the work of both our congregation and the Island Heart Food Pantry.
We have cleared off the table the leftover saved, washed the dishes and put them away. I've told you a story and tucked you in tight at the end of your knockabout day. And as the moon sets its sails to carry you to sleep over the midnight sea, I will sing you a song no one sang to me. May it keep you good company. And you can be anybody you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself, you can gather friends around, you can choose one special one. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. There are girls who grow up strong and bold, and there are boys quiet and kind. Some race on ahead, some follow behind, some go in their own way and time. Some women love women, some men love men, some raise children, some never do. And you can dream all the day, never reaching the end of everything possible for you. So don't be rattled by names, by taunts, by games, but seek out spirits true. If you give your friends the best part of yourself, they will give the same back to you. You can be anybody you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself, you can gather friends around, you can choose one special one. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. Yes, the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done.
Thank you, Tom. That was a really beautiful song, and I don't even know how I'm going to get through the rest of my sermon because I'm teary-eyed. Good morning again, everybody. It is a privilege and a blessing to be able to attend this Sunday service with you this morning, despite the physical distance. And I'm blessed to be sharing and reflecting on two of the most life-changing decisions I've ever had to make: becoming a parent to my almost 5-year-old son, Dimitri, and honoring my life when I began my gender transition in August of 2019. Both of these decisions have not only brought me closer to my authentic self, but they have also taught me so much about how important it is to dig deep, to walk alongside our fears, and to foster resilience amidst the storms of life. As Joan mentioned earlier in the opening, I am the Executive Director of Long Island Jobs of Justice. And while I won't be speaking to you today about the work that our organization does, the lessons that I've learned throughout my journeys are very much related to freedom and justice. I hope that in my reflection, I am able to express how in finding my personal power and authentic self, I built a resilience that has given me a deeper sense of individual and community justice. Let me first start off by saying that when Reverend Margie reached out to me last year with the invitation to deliver today's sermon, I had absolutely no idea that I would be delivering it through Zoom, so here we are. But I also did not know that I'd be sharing my story for the first time in a very wide public setting. I received Margie's email on August 9th of 2019, one day after I got my first testosterone shot. And I'm going to be honest that I had no intention of making my sermon about my gender journey. Sharing deeply personal things about my life is not something that I often do, and if I do it, it is only with close friends and family. It was only after about 3 months ago, actually, that I decided that I would share, and I did it doing it with complete, utter fear. That very act of looking fear in the eye as it's sitting there before you and saying, I am terrified, but there is no other option, has guided me and grown me the most. My story of becoming, or as I would say, unbecoming as well, is one of a lifetime. And becoming a parent was the first step I took toward truly living a life of authenticity and respecting my being. I became a daddy on August 17th, 2015, when Dimitri was welcomed into this world. And I'm going to go off script here and just speak from memory that prior to Dimitri being born, I struggled a lot over what I wanted him to call me. I knew that I didn't want him to call me mommy or any variation of that because that's not how I felt inside or outside. But I also didn't know if I was ready and brave enough to be called daddy, because to be called daddy meant that a lot of other conditions would come with that. Questions, not just from him, but from the public. And I, at that point, did not know and was very certain at that time that transitioning was not going to be in my future. So to make a decision to be called daddy when I visually did not represent one in society was a very challenging moment for me. But I decided that despite the fear and despite knowing the questions that I would get, I still was going to move forward with having my son call me daddy, because that is how I wanted him to see me. That is how I wanted myself to see myself. And ultimately, that is how I wanted everybody around me to see me. And that particular point in entering into parenting and making that big decision was also the same time that I began to enter into a very long, ongoing battle with figuring out my gender identity. And once I had decided that I was going to move forward with having my son call me daddy, that opened up a whole new floodgate, and a floodgate that I could never turn back from. For the first 2.5 years of Dimitri's life, not much triggered my thoughts about transitioning, at least not differently than my usual triggers were that I had. It was only when Dimitri began calling me daddy out in public, like in the supermarket, out on the streets, that I began to feel very insecure and self-conscious about how people were perceiving me. And don't get me wrong, I struggled with this idea of perception for many years before. But in these seemingly innocent moments where my son was just calling me daddy, who he thought I was, these moments now involved bringing me a great deal of anxiety, and they surfaced my desire to transition. I asked myself questions like, what would people think when they saw how not daddy-like I looked? Would they say something? Would they stare? Would they correct my son? Would I be able to rise from that defeat? But the question that always weighed heavy on my mind was whether I could bear the thought of my son ever asking me why I didn't look like all the other daddies. So on August 8th, 2019, days before Dimitri turned 4 years old, I got my first testosterone shot. I remember the weeks and months leading up to this and how tortured I felt about this decision. The fear of moving forward was paralyzing, but the years of pain that I saw in my future if I continued to stay in this form began to feel more unbearable. In June of 2019, I decided that the uncertainty and fear of the future was worth the risk of never living the life I knew deep inside I needed to live, not just for myself, but for my son. And I don't say for my son because I have to be someone for him. I say for my son because if I wasn't living my life the way that I felt I needed to, I knew that I couldn't be the best version of myself for my son. And since then, I have had to give myself testosterone injections every week. And each week I look down at that needle and I ask myself, do I still want to do this? Am I still making the right decision? It's been nearly 10 months and not 1 week has gone by where I've hesitated to say, yes, you made the right choice. Keep making it. Every day, and I do not exaggerate, every day comes with fear of the unknown. I cannot predict what life will be like a year from now, a month from now, days from now, or even later this evening. Every day holds the uncertainty of whether I'm doing the right thing. Anxiety about what people will think, worry about whether people will love me for who I am, wonder about what the future holds. But each day also comes an increased clarity and strength comes that helps me trust the move forward, and I'm sticking to that instead. How I understand myself and my gender are specific to me, but the journey, the struggle of making decisions based on who we believe we were meant to be, what we were destined to do, the feelings we are meant to feel, the relationships we are meant to be in, all of these things are part of the human experience. Yes, my journey has been about gender, but it also has been about reveling in the beauty of change and how we as keepers of our own hearts, minds, and bodies have the power to guide ourselves through such a beautiful transformation at any point in our lives. Some of the biggest lessons I've learned is that resilience comes in many different forms, and one form is being able to express your whole self genuinely. We were molded as children by our parents, teachers, religions, peers, and society to fit in. As a result, we developed beliefs and thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that keep us acting in the ways that we were taught to act, not in the ways that we deeply feel we should act. Breaking down these barriers within ourselves can teach us how to bring resilience into not just the everyday decisions in our life, but to our justice work when we are fighting to break down the barriers that keep our world trapped, that keeps our world from being loving, genuine, honest, authentic, and compassionate. I hope that you take away today not just an understanding of what it means to be in transition, but also the messy, painful, liberating, and honest work of finding yourself, trusting what you believe in, sitting with all of the feelings that come with not knowing what to do or who to be, and believing that each day holds a lesson, a reminder, and a gentle touch that insists you to stay present for yourself and the ones that you love. I thank everyone for taking the time to listen to my story. Normally, if we were in person, I would have shared much more. This probably would have been a 25-minute sermon, but because we are stretched with time, I had to condense everything into a lot. But I thank everyone for listening to what I did have to say today. We all journey through life, and while my journey is specific to my own becoming, I hope that I've been able to inspire you all to not fear the journey of becoming your true authentic self, whoever that may be. Our second hymn this morning is hymn number 1053, titled How Could Anyone by Libby Roderick Lee. We will play a short introduction and we will sing it through twice.
Thank you, Lee, for that wonderful hymn. And Tom, no, I'm very sorry. Ani, thank you so much for your reflections today. They were most heartfelt. Our closing words for today are by Ashley Horan, entitled Saying Yes. By the time I was in my late 20s, I was convinced I would never find love. I had a few boyfriends, but over and over, I was exiled to the dreaded friend zone. I always suspected that it was because I was too much, too smart, too feminist, too radical, too fat, too independent, too big of a personality. After a while, I reached the conclusion that I would just have to get used to the idea of being too much all by myself. But then I met Karen, nearly 6 feet tall, older, black, brilliant, stylishly butch, fiercely outspoken and opinionated, and funny as hell. And it turns out also a UU minister. We became quick friends, and the too muchness in each of us somehow wasn't threatening or diminishing to the other, but instead created something vibrant and life-giving. Karen was the one who pursued me, much to my surprise. Although I had dated cisgender men before, it wasn't Karen's sex that gave me pause. I had been raised in a UU family and congregation that had taught me love is love, whatever body or gender it comes in. It was our other differences. The fact that she had a daughter, that she was already deep in the thick of ministry and I was just getting started, that she was older than the partner I had imagined for myself, that interracial relationships are always complex. Could I say yes to this, knowing that if one of my friends had come to me for advice about a similar situation, I might have told them to run screaming in the other direction? But my gut and my heart told me there was something important and real between us. I realized that to say yes to this relationship wouldn't be an act of reason, but an act of faith. And that my faith, rooted deep in our UU traditions, was telling me to not let convention prevent me from connection. to take risks that nurture relationship over isolation, to remember that we are all worthy of love and that it is ours to claim, if we are but brave enough to answer the call. 5 years later, that faithful choice is one of the best I have ever made. I never expected at this point in my life, 32 years old now, to be the parent of a fabulous teenager, the partner of a middle-aged goofball, or a member of this chaotic, rowdy, tightly knit, compassionate network of chosen and original friends and original family, that somehow affirm and celebrates that very too muchness that I thought might leave me forever alone. Our relationship is rooted in deep values of trust, respect, mutuality, celebration, challenge, and joy, and it is life-giving. I am profoundly grateful for the faith that formed me, bringing that yes to my lips in spite of all that would have discouraged that choice. At the end of my life, as one of my favorite hymns says, if they ask me what I did best, tell them I said yes to love. We will now end our service by extinguishing our chalice and sounding the bell once more.
Do not fear the journey of becoming. When those moments arise in your life, have hope that you can guide your soul through the web of thoughts and emotions, and commit over and over again to your personal freedom. May we all go in peace and embrace the new possibilities in the days ahead.